Do you have an idea for a product or book? Or are you ready to go beyond in-service presentations? Well, how do you get started? And what if you don't have any business experience at all? Well, I have some great news for you. I'm Mei-Ling Chan, and I'm getting the nitty-gritty stories from parents, teachers, therapists, advocates, and people with disabilities who have created successful businesses, and they're sharing their intimate stories with you. Listen to us on the Exceptional Leaders Podcast and fast-track creating and building and sharing your idea with the world so that you can help more people.
Please listen carefully.
What is communication?
The act of taking a thought from my head and putting it into your head.
Essential behavior of life. We have the both blessing and responsibility of trying to foster.
It's the strongest way for two people to convey information to each other.
Usually what I have in my head to the outside world
draws us out of ourselves, draws us into that relationship, builds up our families. Without it, we'd be lost.
I think it's the ability to share your innermost feelings and thoughts with others.
Whatever it is that we do to express intent and achieve an impact.
Communication is the ability to express your needs, wants, frustrations, and desires to anyone that you feel needs to have that information.
Welcome to Speech Science, episode 69, proud member of the Exceptional Podcast Network. Make sure you head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and check out everything over there on the XPN network. I'm Matt Hott, happy to be joined all the way out in Philadelphia by Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
And down in middle of nowhere, Kentucky, Michelle Wintering.
Thanks, Matt. Hi.
And joining us from See, Hear, Speak, Tiffany Hogan.
Hello.
Guys, we've made it almost 70 episodes. It is like a lifespan in the medieval times. That's how long we've made it as a podcast. I'm so happy that you guys get to join us. Make sure you do everything you want to get a hold of us. Give us a phone call at 614-681-1798. Or if you're a typer, not a talker, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Michael McLeod, start us off. How has your week been?
So you were saying that podcast in the medieval times went for 70 episodes?
Well, no, like the human would live to like 60 to 70 years age, and we've made it to almost 70 episodes. We are an old man in medieval times.
It's very inspiring. It's good stuff.
How's your week been? What is exciting on the research front?
So pretty much just putting the final touches on that. Just about done with the final testing. Now it's time to really do all that mathematical stuff that I love so much.
Ugh.
So I'll be taking a deep dive into that and getting it together into a nice, well-read research essay. Looking to get it published. So I'm sure that'll be quite the journey. And yeah, so it's definitely getting into the nitty-gritty right now.
Now, I don't want to give away anything on your study if you don't want to give it away, but how big is your study? How many participants?
It is very small, very, very small. So it took place at a school, so it's less than 10 students.
Okay, so
Yep.
What kind of study is that then? Is that considered like an introductory or what?
Yeah, it's basically a pilot study. So basically one of the biggest things that we can conclude from this research is that a much larger research needs to take place. So we're definitely showing some great progress from baseline to final, but one of the major conclusions will be that the research should continue on this specific topic.
Very cool. Keep us up to date on that. Michelle Wintering, how is keeping baby speech science alive?
Hey, it's a day-to-day thing. No, I'm looking at a baby monitor right now as he's turning around and thrashing about in his crib a bit. So if I have to step away, that's why. But
that's okay. I keep hearing one ear out for my sick 2-year-old. If he starts coughing and you see me run off screen, you know what happened.
We'll cover for each other. We're good.
Just fill in.
No, I'm doing well in a not speech-related topic, but as you know, being a sports coach yourself, I coached volleyball for 5 years, partially during grad school. Not the best decision to add a coaching job to grad school, but was a great experience nonetheless. And I have finally found an open gym to go play some volleyball here in Kentucky after moving. So
hey, there you go. Are you coaching yet again or no?
Not coaching. Not sure if that's going to be on the docket for a little while with baby speech science, just with the evening travel schedules and stuff.
Hey, Tiffany, I don't know if you're a coach, but there are at least 2 coaches on here, and only one of us has a state title, and it's not me.
I was going to say, did you get one in bowling? I was going to get really excited.
No, I thought you guys won state when I came to watch in Denver.
We did win states when you came to watch in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to
crazy.
Cheyenne Mountain High School in Colorado Springs. Whoop, whoop.
And then joining us from, if you heard me audibly gasp, my 5-year-old snuck up behind me in the middle of the podcast. So,
hi, Mike.
Oh, you got to love podcasting with a family. And joining us from See, Hear, Speak is Tiffany Hogan. Tiffany, 1, why did you decide to join us? And 2, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hello. Well, let's see. Why did I decide to join? I'll answer that second. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Tiffany Hogan, and as you said, I'm the host of See, Hear, Speak podcast by night, but by day, I'm a professor at MGH Institute of Health Professions, and I also direct the Speech and Language Literacy Lab, which I refer to as the SAIL Literacy Lab. And I'm actually coming to you from the lab. I had to get out of my house because I have 3 children, and they would not allow any space of quiet in my home. I have a 13-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So busy days and nights. And I decided to join the podcast because I'm a big fan, and I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. What is MGH Institute, and what is the SAIL Institute, or SAIL Literature Institute?
Yes, so the MGH Institute of Health Professions is the degree granting arm of the MGH Hospital, which is Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. So we have, we're a graduate school, and we grant degrees in speech language pathology, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and a variety of nursing degrees. We also have a PhD program in rehab sciences, and then we also educate reading specialists through our SLP program. And I teach courses in the speech pathology program and also in the reading specialist degree. And then the Speech and Language Literacy Lab is a research lab within MGH Institute of Health Professions, and I'm the lead of that lab. We have several studies funded by NIH to look at development of speech, language, and literacy in children. And we focus on children with dyslexia, developmental language disorders, and speech sound disorders.
Well, this might be a first. I think this might be the first time we have 2 people as like hosts of the show who have studies or have done studies or works for a place with studies. I am dumb. I don't know about you, Michelle, but I have not done any studies.
You haven't done any research?
No.
Oh.
I work in schools and home health care.
I mean, I did too, but it's fun to keep your foot in some research.
Well, Tiffany, I'm so glad you joined us, and I hope you, as they say in the old X-Men comics, survive the episode.
You'll make it through, I promise.
Yeah.
I hope so.
For me, if you can tell with the sniffles or the denasaled sound, I am fighting a wonderful cold that I had all the way through OSLHA weekend. I got to stand up there on stage and hold back coughs while I got the Fellowship of the Association Award. So shout out to OSLHA. That was pretty awesome.
Congrats.
Thanks. And then I presented on the Schools Caucus and gave out all the information about what you need to know as a school SLP in the state of Ohio. That was nerve-wracking because presenting with me were 2 of my former supervisors, Janice Wright, who we quote at the end of every episode, and Kathy McDermott. So I always felt like I had to do better because they were there. So that was my weekend in a nutshell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big weekend.
Having fun. But coming up on today's episode, we're going to talk about what could make dementia worse. Also, what are the hobbies that might make you smarter? And also, the largest study ever. We'll find out if it has any link between vaccines and autism. I'm going to let you in and guess that it probably doesn't. But, Michelle, don't laugh. We don't know. We have to listen. We don't know yet. But starting off, this one is coming from the BBC One. It's from a show. Do you guys remember the Lost Voice comedian on America's Got Talent? Or
Yes.
not America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent?
Yep.
Well, he's doing a show on BBC One called Finding My Voice, and I thought we'd listen to just a short clip.
Okay, Jack, are you ready?
Yes.
If the donors could take it in turns to speak now.
Hi, my name is Jack.
All right, Bob.
The face as long as Livery Street.
It's a bit black over Bill's mother's.
Boston.
Does anyone stand out to you? 1 and 3.
Hi, Jack.
How are Mum and Dad? What do you reckon to my new voice?
Wow, Jack. Oh, it's fab. Sound like us?
Do I sound like I'm part of the family now?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow. You don't sound posh anymore, Jack. I think that's exactly how you talk.
Tell Rabbit.
So
that's pretty cool. What they are doing is that Jack is a AAC user who had a stock AAC voice, and he felt like he didn't fit in with his whole family because he spoke nothing like his family. So the whole episode is on BBC One. We'll have a link down in our show notes. It's about him almost blind date style, picking out a voice and the whole way they record it to get it into his device. And as a guy who's pushing for AAC, I can't say enough how important this stuff is.
Why is Britain doing all this cool stuff with AAC and we're doing nothing?
Because we don't have funding.
For a TV show? Come on, man.
Oh, okay. I don't know. BBC One is funded by the government. That's all I know.
Can we make this an offshoot of speech science?
Tax money.
We're going to do the voice donor blind date style.
Yes. We need a TV deal.
But no, oh, sorry, Tiffany.
There is a researcher here in Boston who's doing something similar, actually. Rupal Patel has been collecting voices and has a business model where she's working with AAC companies and users. So kind of similar, but not the blind date thing. That was pretty cool.
That was very cool.
Well, and from an AAC user and being a male SLP, being in the 3%, I'm sorry, almost 4% now of SLPs, I know how important it is when we get our high school aged male students. And no offense to the female SLPs out there, but you record your voice on the GoTalks. You find the female voice on the device because you're like, oh, that's the teacher, or that's my voice, or whatever. And then I get this 16-year-old student, weighs 250 pounds, 6'1", and I say, hey, man, how's it going? And he answers, and he doesn't sound like what his peers are. And then we get surprised that our students don't want to use the devices.
Well, I think it makes sense sometimes when you have to use it as a stopgap. Like you just need something for them to communicate. So recording the therapist's voice makes sense, boy or girl voice. But when I was in the school and we were programming some devices and they weren't super in-depth ones, is I just went across campus and found an adult that they didn't know, a male that student didn't know, so that his voice could be unique as well among his classmates, which was especially important because we were working with kiddos who were blind and low vision. So your voice, otherwise they would hear the device and say, that's Miss Michelle. like they knew right away who the voices were. So the voice being unique was so important. So I even had a friend who had nothing to do with the school record for one of my kiddos.
Oh, that's a pretty cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think this also opens up such a unique, and I also just pulled up Rupal Patel's page over here as well from Northeastern University. But I think it brings up a unique idea I never even thought about until I saw this episode, the idea of accents and how important they are. Michelle, you and I went to school in Appalachia, Ohio. And Appalachia, Ohio, they don't talk like we do in Cincinnati or Columbus or Philadelphia or Tiffany, you're out in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of, I'm using a PRC device. I don't have a PRC device with a Boston accent.
Right, you're not parking your car in Harvard Yacht.
Yeah.
There's the accent. I was wondering where it came from.
My friend from Boston says that you all recycle the R's, that you put them in words that don't have them, and then
That's
drop
right,
them
dear.
in other words.
I like that. Well done.
Michael, do you do any AAC with your private practice?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is finding the, what do you guys do for finding the voice? I mean, I don't know if you have any female SLPs, but how is it just you that are recording the voice, or do you pull in family and friends?
We typically, a lot of the AAC users I have also have have their AAC tied very closely to their school IEP.
Okay.
So it's a lot of the times it's a very big deal for the private speech therapist to make edits and changes to the AAC without like very consistent communication with the school team. So I've definitely made suggestions on the voice and to change the voice to help with the self-image and things like that, but haven't really gotten too far with it. So we pretty much tend to use the ones that are on there.
Okay.
On the Avaz program, which is one that I always recommend for parents to start out, that has a lot of really voice options between kids, adults, accents. That's a really good one that has a lot of options.
What is it called?
Avaz, A-V-A-Z.
Oh, yeah. I always called it a Vaz. That would be why I didn't know what it was.
There you go. Yeah, it's a free download from the App Store. You can do a free 10-day trial, see if you like it. So that's why I suggest it to a lot of families, just to trial it out. And then from there, you can really transition very nicely to a touch chat or a Proloquo, something like that, something more advanced.
Fair enough. Tiffany, do you deal with a lot of AAC users?
I really don't.
Oh, okay. What is your background?
I'm a clinical speech pathologist, but I just didn't do much with AAC.
Oh, okay. Everyone's got their own little area. Being in the schools, I get everything.
You get to be a generalist with a little bit of everything.
Well, it's funny. I have a student, and she is not from the Cincinnati area originally. And she's got a reader, and because we're working on a couple other things. And because I'm the SLP tech guy, her and I spent probably 2 days fine-tuning a voice for her reader, from speed to accent to bass and treble and all this stuff. And I was super aggravated at near the end because I was like, what more do you want? And then now to see her use it and how proud she is that it almost sounds like her real voice, I was like, okay, Mr. Hot's an idiot. Again, you get this point.
You're not an idiot. You worked hard to figure it out.
I know, but I was like, come on, let's get it over with. And then I realized what she was doing, so I couldn't get too upset. So
don't be so hard on yourself, man.
I know. We want to hear from you, though. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. Tell us about your trials and tribulations with AAC, or give us a phone call, 614-681-1798. You can find us on Twitter at SpeechSciencePC, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Or like Michelle and I figured out today, we now have a password for the Instagram.
Yes.
Do you know the username? Is it speech_science?
It is. We have a lot of followers on there, but we haven't posted anything in a long time because we didn't have access to
Dedicated fans out there.
That's because Matt lost the password. All right.
I expect a lot of pics.
All right. I want everyone that is driving to put 2 hands on the wheel. Keep your eyes forward. If you're sitting down at home, stay seated. This coming out at healthday.com, but it's been all over the news. The largest study ever. And they found no link between vaccines and autism.
Specifically the measles vaccine.
The measles vaccine.
Are you sure?
Oh my gosh. I hate that we have to have this conversation every 3 months.
Well, and this is coming out when
Did you read the article all right?
There's an outbreak of measles right now, too.
I know. There is. And they said, did you see the kid with tetanus? Did you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Yeah, it's like 50 days in the hospital.
Yeah. So, Michelle, this kid got tetanus. His mom didn't vaccinate him. So, he got, tetanus. Like Tiffany said, he was in the hospital for 50 days. And then he got taken out, and the mom doesn't want to do any of the follow-up medication or shots to keep him safe.
What?
I'm drinking my water over here because I'm going to lose my voice by shouting.
I didn't even know tetanus was still a thing.
Tetanus, rubella, the measles. I mentioned the 70-year lifespan of the medieval times when we started. So how can we as therapists, besides getting super upset at our families who don't know better, because we've talked about it before. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old. I can see linking anything to anything just to make sense why they're sick or why they're injured or whatever. But how can we as therapists, without getting upset like I do, convince parents, about these studies or any study that we're using. I mean, if they don't believe autism studies with the vaccines, how are they going to believe us when we mention AAC or aphasia therapy or apraxia or anything else?
In this article, the lead researcher, I thought this quote from him was important, that he said, "I do not think we can convince the so-called anti-vaxxers. I am more concerned about the perhaps larger group of parents who encounter anti-vaccine pseudoscience and propaganda on the internet and become concerned and uncertain." And those are the people I think that we tend to run into most often, because he's right. It's going to be really hard to have a conversation with someone who is hard and fast, absolutely anti-vaccine. But how can we reach that population in the middle who is getting, just like we talked about, I think the last podcast, they're going to Google something and they're going to get not just this article, but a whole lot of other ones.
Basically, we have to send everyone a link to our podcast, have them listen to it, give us a 5-star rating on the iTunes store, and there you go.
I like how you link that in there.
The 5 stars.
5-star rating. Let everyone know.
I just did a autism and vaccines Google search, and it has 52,200,000 results. Tiffany, how do you guys handle, because you're part of a hospital as well, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You're seeing more of the frontline stuff than myself in the schools or the private practice folks.
Yeah, I think we've been trying to take an approach where we have empathy for why they may be thinking that there's a connection. Like, for instance, saying that it can be a bit confusing because first words are developed around, or emerge around the same time that vaccinations occur, and this can seem like there's a link, but there's been so many studies showing that there's not a link. So it's kind of building that kind of rapport and empathy first, and then describing the science.
Now, does that work in the clinic?
I would like to say it works more than it does.
Okay. And I know I spent a little time in clinic, and it's almost the same idea or similar idea when we're working with maybe a family that's not from the U.S., where disorders or diseases or delays or deficits are not as widely accepted. And the way you describe that sounds kind of like how they taught us in clinic to broach the subject of autism or a speech delay or anything else.
Right.
And what we don't want to do is cut off that conversation by being so harsh in our response to it initially that they don't want to talk to us about it anymore. And they don't want information from us about it either.
I just pulled up an article from the New York Times. I'm sorry, I was going to say the New Yorker. It's from the New York Times. And there's a law trying to get passed that will allow 14-year-old children and up to get vaccinated even without parental consent.
Okay.
So there's that. I'll put a link down in the show notes.
Where is that?
I just found it on the New York Times. This is from March 11th. Oh, today.
Is it for the state of New York? Or is it?
Yes,
okay.
For the state of New York, yes.
Okay.
I just threw it in our group chat as well.
Okay, thanks.
But, I mean, it says it allows for a range of diseases, including mumps, diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, influenza, hepatitis B, and measles. So there you go. This is just a tough subject because as a parent, I feel for them. And then as a clinician, I want to wring everyone's necks. And I hate to be so brutally honest, and it could be the Dayquil I'm on as well, but just saying.
Definitely
hopefully it's not NyQuil yet, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the article noted the World Health Organization declares vaccine hesitancy one of the 10 greatest threats to public health.
And that's just scary because, like, we work in a field where we help students that have autism. And I have kids with autism or OHI or whatever you want to call it in the school system. And they almost make it seem like getting autism, if you could even get autism, is worse than 50 days in the hospital because of tetanus or measles or death. And it makes me very upset in a weird, very angry way because our kids with autism are not defective because of, even if it was caused by a vaccine, they're not defective.
Mm-hmm. We actually, on one of our podcasts, I know we talked about that article from the World Health Organization on the 10 greatest threats to public health.
I think back on episode 63 or 2. actually. So, well, we want to hear from you. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. Tell us your thoughts on how you handle anti-vaxxers in or out of the clinic. I can't even talk. Give us a phone call, 614-681-1798, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk a little bit about what could make dementia worse, and also what are you and your children doing to make yourselves smarter? We'll find out. You're listening to Speech Science.
This podcast is brought to you by Pearson, the company behind the Self, GFTA, and the brand new PPVT5 and EVT3. These new, easy-to-use vocabulary assessments are brief and reliable for 2 years, 6 months old, to those 90 and beyond. Learn more about these new tests at pearsonclinical.com/exceptional. That's pearsonclinical.com/EPTIONAL.
Welcome back to Speech Science, episode 69. I'm Matt Hott, joined as always by Michelle Wintering.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Michelle. And Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm answering everyone's highs today.
I like it.
And specially joining us in the fourth chair this week, Tiffany Hogan.
Hello.
Hello, Tiffany. So tell us a little bit about your podcast, where to find it. What do you guys do on there?
Fantastic. So I have a new podcast. I'm a bit of a podcasting newbie. It is See Hear Speak Podcast. You can find it at www.seehearspeakpodcast.com. And I have interesting conversations with interesting people about speech, language, and literacy in the developing child.
That's awesome. Is it like a focus more on pediatrics, or is it like birth through 15, or is there like a... Is it everything?
It's definitely pediatrics, and I'd say after like 5th grade, it's more like geriatric to me. So pretty young. Yeah.
Fair enough. If you hand me a child under the age of 12, I go, this is way too young for me. I have no idea what to do.
Oh, too young?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll pass them off.
These guys have known. I've told the story before. I worked in a preschool for a year, and my oldest son, who's playing a video game right behind me because bedtimes are optional in my house right now when Daddy's podcasting. I would be doing like the cow jumped over the barn all day at school, and then I'd come home and he's like, "Daddy, let's play barn and trains," and I'm like, "I'm good. I'm good. Can I not? I don't want to."
What happens when he's in high school and you're working with high school? Well,
I'm leaving schools till 1 day a week, so...
This is true. Very true.
So until he becomes an older gentleman, then I'm okay. So, but you did literacy. Michael, you love not video games for children development. Michelle, you have a small child. Have you guys seen the ASHA 21-day challenge?
Because of you, I have.
What a segue. I love it.
Yeah. Did you see this? For 21 days, they want you to read out loud for 15 minutes every day to build a universal read aloud habit. I'm assuming they would like you to read to a child, but if you don't have a child, I guess you could read to your cat or your mirror, I guess. I don't know, but I loved it. Like, it's such a cool idea.
And they even have a calendar, which I love, that gives you suggestions if you don't want to just do 15 minutes on your own. You can do their directions, like read a book on shapes and colors today. Read a book about, let your child pick the book on their topic today. So they give some guidance, which is a good way to do it.
I love that. Read in a group. Make a book. That's so cool. So
I love it.
It says daily reading with a child, it says.
Oh, does it say with a child?
With a child.
A child of any age.
Or to a child anywhere, randomly.
Hey, there you go. Just get on YouTube and just do a YouTube live. Read a book.
Yeah.
Just Facebook Lives of all these people reading books.
Guys,
I think that's great.
We
that
should
would be great.
do that.
Oh,
yeah.
There are YouTube channels devoted to adults reading children's books, actually.
Yeah, that's we took off, by the way, because I have to be careful with little ears in the room. because of the crazy things that have been happening, we have officially killed YouTube and YouTube Kids from every device in our family.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive.
I figured you would, as my son plays Rocket League right behind me.
You do what you got to do, Matt.
All right, man. But did you see this article coming from the Speech Dynamic? They say why blocks beat batteries. And as soon as I read this, Michael, I thought of you right away.
Thank you, man. That means a
So
lot.
So explain to us, I know you've told us multiple times on the show, but as I tell families, take 7 unique opportunities to learn a fact, and I've need 7 unique opportunities. What happens executive functioning wise when I am playing with a action figure or a block versus playing my Simpsons tapped out video game or Star Trek Fleet Command, sorry.
So basically, one of the main true aspects of the research study I'm doing is really the true effects of interpersonal relationships and meaningful experiences and how those work to build and foster executive function skills in students. And this is very clearly seen in the differences between blocks and action figures, like Matt said, and then on the flip side, something like a video game. So one of the biggest things to do in terms of building executive function skills is to have those meaningful experiences. Whenever you're using your hand and you're using a toy that is with you within the environment and manipulating it and having that true cause and effect relationship of putting the blocks together, building something, having that object permanence, the joint attention with somebody else, and having been really building that cognitive flexibility. And one of the biggest things that so few parents really want to talk about, and some clinicians as well, is truly how important it is to fail, and how important it is to come across something where it doesn't work out as you originally supposed it to be. And that is so easy to do when you're working with something that is real world in the environment. You know, when it's video games, it's not always you achieving it. It's the third party. It's the character. It's the team that you're playing on. It's not as realistic. It's not as manipulative as the toys are, that you're able to mess around with things, fail, learn, try again, and building that resiliency that allows you to then in turn work on that response inhibition, that emotional control, the self-control, and also the overall working memory in terms of the cause and effect. What worked, what didn't, what should I try next? Thinking in terms of steps, thinking in terms of applying the past to the future and building that metacognitive piece, the ability to self-evaluate while you are playing is so much greater in real world play than in any sort of technological video game play.
So Tiffany, what do you guys see out at Sale with the amount of kids just reading by themselves versus, tablets?
Well, we have several studies looking at working memory actually and the relation to literacy and seeing how important executive function is to working memory, and that whole connection to literacy is so critical and important. And I think that, that interaction, I'll just build on what Michael said, that interaction is just so critical with the, people, and even thinking about shared reading, tying it to the 21-day challenge, all of that interaction is building your working memory capacity related to literacy skills.
Yeah, I've been working with a lot of other clinicians that are reading specialists and really tying in the executive function specialty into the literacy piece. And there is a major, like when you're young, when you're playing with these blocks, you're really still within the area of nonverbal working memory. And through this play, that's really what you're using in terms of thinking and all those sorts of things. And then once you get into the verbal, gaining that language, gaining that literacy, it's really that transition from nonverbal working memory to verbal working memory that allows you to gain those reading comprehension skills and literacy skills and be able to manipulate information, create that visual image in your mind, and have that mental flexibility. So executive functioning is very, very closely tied to literacy.
So is this why, and my 5-year-old's behind me, but like growing up, as he was growing up, I couldn't like hide anything from him because he would remember where something was. And now I'm seeing the same thing verbally. Like he'll remember conversations we've had for months ago. And now I'm starting to see it with my 2-year-old. And I've said on the show before, I've spent way too much money than I'd like to admit on action figures and dinosaurs and blocks. And we have, if you see over my right shoulder, a table of like 20 different Lego sets. Is that kind of that whole same idea?
That's exactly what it is. See, you have been doing research this whole time. So there you go.
My wallet has been doing research.
Right in your own home on your own child. But that is exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's thinking in terms of pictures, thinking in terms of, that's why kids tend to have that black and white thinking. It's the visual, nonverbal working memory. It's so much less ability to manipulate the internal language piece, the self-directed talk piece that you need in order to interpret written language and build those literacy skills and manipulate it in your mind and apply it appropriately in a literacy group or a classroom.
So then, Tiffany, I'm going to pick on you for a second, or pick your brain for a second. How do you transition kids then from blocks and toys to involved readers? Because I have a lot of kids on my caseload that I can throw a Lego set in front of them and they can totally put it together. But if I give them a grade or age appropriate level reading, even high interest, I get nowhere.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you talked about the high interest and what we see is tying it to the interest they have. So if it's Legos, making it purpose driven. So even just reading the Lego manual or a book that focuses on Legos, then it can tie that interest level and it makes it purpose driven. If there's a purpose behind it, then you get the buy-in, and then that buy-in leads to hopefully more reading.
That makes sense.
And then also I will say, tying into what Michael said too about the working memory aspect, we see that for instance, updating. So when you have, verbal working memory and you have to update new information as it comes in, so you're holding in your old information, updating new information, that directly relates to reading comprehension and having to take in new information as you're reading, and you're constantly updating that story or updating that schema, that representation. It's a nicely direct tie.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Michael, what book or project are you working on that is similar to what we're talking about? Are you reading anything?
Yeah. I'm always reading like different like executive function books. Right now I'm reading something called the Resiliency Project, which is a great book. So is that?
I was really hoping somebody would say something so that I didn't feel like an idiot. I'm reading Ready Player One. Tiffany, are you reading or doing anything like that?
I just got a new book called Brain Words: How the Science of Reading Informs Teaching. So I've been thinking a lot about how to get the science into the classroom.
Okay. Yeah, because like I'm thinking about that, and then I don't remember who linked this one in the group chat, the Truly Mind article about the 7 hobbies that can make you smarter. Reading is number 2, musical instrument is number 1, meditating, working out your brain, exercising, learning a new language, and writing your feelings down. So what is it, Michael and Tiffany? I'm going to let you guys debate here and educate me as Michelle just got back on camera. Michelle, quickly, what book are you reading?
What book am I reading? Sorry, had to step away for baby speech science. Just any book? What book am I reading?
Yeah, I'm reading Ready Player One. Michael and Tiffany are reading Smart Books.
Gosh, I am struggling through the 7-Story Mountain right now for a book club.
Okay. So I'm going to let Michael and Tiffany here educate us. What is it about reading then that leads to the better language skills overall?
Well, reading just... Obviously, the obvious choice is that it exposes you to so much more language and ideas, and whether it's vocabulary, morphology, semantics, pragmatic language, literacy literally opens up a brand new world of language to readers, and the ability to manipulate it and interpret it as you see fit, and tie together all the different story elements together. Just the overall exposure is something you can only get from reading, and only getting to expose yourself from reading, because you're not going to really get that from your natural environment.
And there's a lot of inferencing involved in reading too. I'll tie on to what Michael said is, you have to fill in a lot of gaps when you're reading. It's decontextualized, so you're not getting nonverbal cues. You're not getting any of those social cues. You have to infer them from the text, and that is a tricky task. And the more you do that, the better you become.
It's funny you said that too, because like I mentioned, this Thomas Merton book that I'm reading, that's a big, thick thing for this book club. And so I'm trying to get through it this month. And one thing that's helped me a little bit is to get some of the verbal cues, because I've started when I'm doing something around the house listening to some of the audiobook, and then I'm reading it at night, and it's helping so much at times with this book in particular, because I'm struggling with some of the dense book that it is, but I get why that inferencing skill is so important. I had done an activity with some of my high schoolers when I was in the schools, where they would get so stuck on those words that they don't know, instead of learning to use the context cues for them with context clues when reading. So basically we just said, you're not allowed to stop and tell them, like, you're just going to keep going. We'll come back to the word later. And most of the time when we'd go back to it, they'd realize that they could figure out what it meant based on reading the next paragraph or continuing what they were already doing. So
I feel like this conversation could last another couple of hours, but unfortunately I'm going to have to pause it right there because we only got so much time before the podcast is over. So we want to hear from you. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. From there, you can give us a phone call, 614-681-1798, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or hashtag speechscience, and we will find it for you. So just kind of segueing a little bit, evidently too much TV or battery time when you're young might be bad for you, or is bad for you. And evidently too much TV time after the age of 50 is also bad. This article is coming out of Express, out of the UK, and it was a research study of 3,662 adults from 2008 to 2015. And they found that those who watch TV for more than 3.5 hours per day experienced an 8 to 10% decrease in verbal memory.
Thank you.
Now I gotta bleep it, Michael. I haven't had to bleep anything on this show in 15 episodes, and that's the one you use?
Well, actually, you're the one who told me I could use that one probably 30 episodes ago.
I still have to bleep it, though. I just let you know. We got to keep our G rating. But 3.5 hours per day, so that is 3 episodes of Game of Thrones and the news.
Which Netflix and Hulu and every other app is just feeding into for all of us right now.
Who watches Game of Thrones and then the news?
Me?
One hand is raised. Matt's like, it's me.
Hey, before I go to bed, I do want to know what happened today.
I think that actually delays dementia, that combination of shows.
But no, why is it... Is this the same idea that happens with adults that it happens with kids?
Yes.
Oh, well, thanks. That was very descriptive, Michael. That was helpful. I now
Mike
understand.
is just doing short answers, concise tonight.
But okay, so Michael, you don't work with adults, do you?
Very few.
Very few. Tiffany, do you work with adults?
No, I don't.
No. Michelle?
I did in El Paso, but I'm not currently now.
I do home care, but when I used to work in some of the nursing homes, it was, I don't want to say, like the way I would always explain it to a parent, or like adults or their kids, is that there's reactive learning and there's active learning. And the reactive part is the brain is just absorbing everything from the news. And I'd walk into a nursing home and my patient has been sitting in front of his TV or her TV from lunch, and then got dinner in front of the TV, and oh, by the way, I'm there at 6:30, and I think they've gotten TV for 7 hours in a row.
That's why those rec therapists and music therapists and those other people are so important in places like skilled nursing facilities and even home health care and hospice and respite care.
But maybe it goes back to the executive functioning that we were just talking about with, that Michael was mentioning with the social interactions and the executive functioning aspect, that if you're interacting, you're not really interacting when you're watching TV.
Exactly. And when you're watching TV, you're also just sitting there. You're sedentary, as they say. So you're just, that's almost worse for the brain than eating junk food, is just sitting there without moving. So I think it's not just watching the TV, it's kind of what your body's doing overall.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go for it, Michelle.
Have any of you heard of that book? This just jogged my memory. The 5 Love Languages.
Yes.
They talk about basically how people receive love, right? Whether it's in a dating relationship or with your children, you can apply it to different things. And I'm going to get them wrong, but I know words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and I'm blanking on the last
service.
one.
It's like
service, acts of service. And I remember specifically it talking about quality time, and it says quality time is not sitting and watching a show together.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, and I thought that really stuck with me, because you might think you're spending time with this person, and they might think that they're interacting with someone else, but we're cutting off that interpersonal part. Like you said, you're just absorbing it instead of actually expressive receptive, right?
So there you go. So that would be a great argument for all the parents that say playing Fortnite is a social thing for my kid to do, because he's playing with his friends and he's talking to his friends and they're strategizing together. But they're not. That's it. They're cutting it off, because parents have truly convinced themselves, because they don't want to battle with their kids anymore, that Fortnite is a social thing and it's good for their kid to socialize and play, because this is the new technology of being social. But no, it's what Michelle just said. It's not a love language.
Well, when you were talking about that, I was thinking back. I haven't had to go on a first date in a long time. I've been married since 2011 and dated her in college. But like, I would always remember, like, as a first date, you would the big like no was not to go to the movies,
right?
Because then you would like, you don't talk.
Yeah.
Like,
you know nothing about them by the end of that date.
We just spent 3 hours together and we watched a funny movie, but I have no idea anything. And well, it's now 11 o'clock, time to go home. So I guess I have a question, and maybe I'm an idiot, and I'm afraid to even say this.
I'm going to cut you off. You're not allowed to call yourself an idiot anymore on the podcast.
Because I'm afraid to ask this question in front of Michael and Tiffany. Michelle, you're fine, because you're not a researcher, so you won't judge me.
I'm not a researcher. I worked in a research lab all of grad school.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'm just the non-researcher here. All right. But, okay, so my question would be, this study looked at TV time for adults and decrease. Is there a study, or could there be a study done to see if strategy games do the same thing for adults over the age of 50?
Yes, and that has been done.
Has it really?
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Oh.
And what that research showed,
and I'm guessing it didn't show that my life as a future video game player in the nursing home is not a good plan.
Fortnite in the nursing home.
What did it show?
It showed that the individuals who played those strategy games got really good at those strategy games.
Oh, that's
not at other things in life.
Not much carryover.
There you go. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Zero carryover.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
go for it, Michelle.
No,
I'm just
I was
uber
just
disappointed.
thinking too. This ties right in just with our daily habits, right? But what hobbies weren't we gonna talk about that article? The 7 hobbies to make you smarter.
We did when you were looking at baby speech science.
Oh, I missed it. How did I miss that?
But, okay, so I'm disappointed for 2 reasons. One, I thought that might be my way to get my PhD, was to look at that. And then second, also disappointed that my brain's not going to get smarter playing those games.
You can do another study on it for your PhD.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, you build on research, just like Mike is doing the initial study on something. You just have to take it further.
Mm-hmm.
So if all these stuff is bad, why do we have so much? And I know I'm asking a panel of SLPs why video games are so popular, but I don't know. Is there anything we could do other than be the lone voice in the hallway yelling, play with toys, and read a book?
Not really. It's a billion dollar industry. That's exactly what it is.
Do things like the ASHA challenge this month. We need to do that kind of stuff with our patients and our clients.
There you go.
Yeah.
That works. Okay, cut out my answer and just leave theirs.
No, I'll leave yours in there. But no, like, this even makes me sad. Have you guys seen the Netflix documentary, The Toys That Made Us?
I have
No.
not.
I think I have, actually.
So it's a really cool series. They kind of give the background history of every toy.
Oh,
So I should go watch TV about these.
Well, and the thing is they were talking about Legos. And Legos was losing a lot of money. And the way they had to make money to keep Legos open was make Lego video games. Which is super disappointing.
Really?
Yeah.
I think all they needed to do is videotape people building Lego things and put it on YouTube.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I know one of the most popular games that like my kids have played and like my friends' kids have played is the Lego Star Wars games, where you get to be the Star Wars characters, but they're Legos.
Plus the Lego movies series.
And the Lego movies.
Lego movies are very popular.
Well, I feel like we just ended on a downer.
Oh.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh well, 21-day challenge. We'll end on that one. Go read to a kid, hopefully your own, for 15 minutes a day. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. I forgot what our own email address was, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or give us a phone call, 614-681-1798. Let's wrap this puppy up and send it home like we normally do. Tiffany, we will start with you. Plug your show and tell us something fun or exciting that you're going to be doing in the next week.
Okay, so podcast, seehearspeakpodcast.com. And I'm going to be releasing a new podcast soon where I speak with Emily Zimmerman about feeding as the new play. So she focuses on pediatric feeding and language development. So it should be interesting, and I'm excited to get it out in the next week or so.
Michael, beat that. What are you doing this week?
I am definitely not beating that. I am. I'm traveling to Maryland for a conference on Friday, so I'll be there for Friday. Pretty much shifted my whole schedule around for the week. So what I used to do on Friday, I'm now doing on Tuesday. I crammed it in there.
Ooh, I feel for you.
Yeah, so I'll be in Annapolis, Maryland on Friday with some great group of people. And yeah, it'll be awesome.
That's awesome. And Michelle, what are you doing this week that is fun and or exciting?
Fun and or exciting. I am trying to lay some groundwork for my website that I'm working on. And then I think I mentioned it last week, but the American Hippotherapy Association biannual conference is in Lexington in another week. So I have a friend coming in from El Paso. I used to volunteer at Compadres Therapy there doing some hippotherapy, and hoping I can get maybe an interview with someone from there for the podcast.
Do it.
We shall see.
I may make you guys happy and make my wife super upset, but in Sunday is the largest toy show in Ohio, and I'm going to take my boys up there, and we go and buy old toys that I had as a kid, and we buy them for cheap and let my boys destroy them in any way they would like to. And right now they have and are enjoying the old X-Men toys I had as a kid. So
I will destroy you. I will eat you alive.
oh, what happens when a 5-year-old is up past 10:30? He jumps on your podcast.
Future podcaster.
He's in training already.
He actually will narrate anytime we go anywhere. He will say, "All right, kids, we're going to be doing this." So it's wonderful.
He's learned from his dad.
I've ruined my son. But hey, at least I buy my kids toys instead of video games.
That's right.
Oh, our opening music tonight was Please Listen Carefully by Jazar. It's licensed under an attribution and share alike license. Our bump music is The Spellbreaker by Tritachyon. It's licensed under an attribution license. And our closing music, which is playing right now, that's The Slow Burn by Kevin MacLeod. It's licensed under a Creative Commons attribution license. In the immortal words of Janice Wright, who I got to present with this weekend, always be a willow, because in a storm, the mighty oak, it will crack. The willow will bend, but return to shape once the storm is over. For Tiffany Hogan, Michelle Wintering, and Michael MacLeod, I'm Matt Hott. Till next week, so long, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Awesome job.
Matt, I'm a little insulted that you said I'm not a researcher, even though you were at ASHA with me when I presented.
You were!
Right. Not a researcher. Ouch. Like...
This has been an Exceptional Podcast Network production. Speech Science is edited and produced by MWH Production. Please follow Speech Science on Twitter at SpeechSciencePC and like our page on Facebook. For more original podcasts, please visit exceptionaled.com and rate and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.